Hello, my gorgeous queens and kings. I know it's been a minute. It has been a minute, but I decided to just come back for a second and reassure you guys that I didn't forget about you and give you a little update. Because I left you kind of on a cliffhanger when I was talking about my freelancer depression and when I was telling you a little bit about my job seeking adventures. And things obviously have progressed. If you follow me on Instagram, then you know. So I decided to record you again another bestie voice memo before sleeping. It's actually 10 past midnight. I'm supposed to be sleeping, but I've had it on my mind for a few days, if not weeks already, that I really would like to record another podcast episode because people were asking, and ik ga lekker op consistency, we would say in Dutch or half Dutch, but to English it translates that I just really, I don't know how to say it, y'all. Like, consistency turns me on, and that applies to people around me, but also I require consistency from myself as well. So it was bothering me a little bit that I kind of dropped the podcast in the dark. I left it in the dark and I didn't do anything about it for a few months. And one of my New Year's resolution was to pick the podcast up, even if it's just a voice memo, because, recording a video is all fun and stuff, but it costs a lot of effort. And right now, unfortunately, I don't make any money from the podcast yet. Let's manifest it. So I have to keep it efficient, especially now that I have a full-time job, which I am going to tell you all about during this episode. So like I just said, I think during this episode, I'm just going to tell you a little bit how has it been with my job, how did it go with seeking for a job. Obviously, in the meantime, from the last episode, there was a Femme Confidence retreat in Spain, which I also want to tell you so much about, because it was a crazy, unforgettable experience that brought me to tears, and like happy tears. And just to this day, girls, I have so much flashbacks, like the good flashbacks, and I really can't wait for the June edition. But I'm going to tell you about it maybe in different episode. Maybe I'm going to invite Amber and Brittany so that we can share our experience with you guys, because obviously we were there all together. And then in November, we also had another Femme Confidence XXL edition, which was, I think, the best edition so far. If you don't know, we changed the locations, not voluntarily, to be very fair with you guys, but this was just another evidence that rejection is a push in a better direction. So long story short, yet again, maybe I'm going to make an episode where I tell you a little bit about my experience with Femme Confidence event and the November edition specifically, maybe like a little recap. But overall, girl, the best edition so far. The location that we had this time is so much better because it was spacious, lights, and just vibes on vibes. Anyways, let me ramble to you a little bit about the job life. So to answer the questions that I've been getting very briefly, and then I will elaborate about it. How was it? How is it going? It's going great. I'm very happy, and I really feel like this is what I needed at this particular point of my life. What will life bring in the future? We won't know. I don't know. But, I like to go with the flow. Like literally, maybe not literally, but I do like to visualize myself as flowing on a sea, or on some waters. And, sometimes it's calm, sometimes it's a little bit stormy, but, I'm Pisces. I'm a fish. I just flow, with it. So right now I'm on a job wave. Maybe in a year I'll be like, okay, I want to freelance again. I don't know. But let's start from the beginning. So I left you when I was still looking for a job. And I think I shared with you guys some tips that I got from my friends and I was trying to use myself when looking for a job. Well, looks like the tips were working, but overall, this whole job seeking experience made me reflect on the fact that after all, the most important thing in life when it comes to everything, but in this particular case, job seeking is connections, you guys. And of course, it's really nice when you're born into family or like, you have a daddy that has connections here and there or mommy. But if you're not born with this privilege, you still can create connections for yourself. It's not like that if you don't have any network, that's it, you can succeed in life or you cannot achieve whatever goals it is that you have. But yeah, I learned, and I stand by it, that the most important thing that you should invest your time and energy in is to create connections. And you can do that through multiple ways. I think nowadays the most convenient, the fastest one is LinkedIn. So just add people from the network that you're trying to get into. Let's say in my case, it was education. I really wanted to work at school. So I was just adding like people working in the institution where I wanted to work at. And yeah, obviously I sent hundreds of motivation letters, and I'm gonna elaborate on it. I'm gonna elaborate on it in a second. But another way you can make connections is through interviews. So I went for multiple interviews, and obviously a lot of times it was a no, whether it was from me or from the company. But I still met those people, and I think I made a good impression, even if it wasn't a match on a professional level. I still showed myself up. They saw me, they met me, they saw that I'm a nice person, that I'm intelligent, that I can hold a conversation. So that is already connection, because you met someone from that company, from that industry, and maybe it's a no now, but in the future they might remember about you, be like, hey, the girl that applied for this and this job, she didn't get it, but maybe she'd be good for this position. So this actually basically what happened. This is what happened to me. I applied for multiple jobs, and I got an interview, which, by the way, I didn't show up to because I got sick. But I still sent my motivation letter, and I still sent an application for a different position within the same company. And it was like lower level, like the entry level was lower than the other job, and it was a little bit lower than my degree and experience would require, but still like a nice job. So yeah, I applied for it, and one of the managers from the company responded to it and invited me for an interview. And it was because she was curious, who am I and why did I apply for a higher entry level job and then a lower entry level job. She was like, girl, like, what do you actually do? And I was like, well, basically, I just want to get in somewhere. Because also the sad truth is, you guys, is that I truly believe that it is very easy to get a job. If you're in need of any income, you can get a job within 2 days, because you can just go to any restaurant, McDonald's, hotels, and especially in places like Amsterdam, you will find a job in no time. But that changes if you actually are looking for a good job, as in, let's say an office job or a job that aligns with your education. I feel like this is when it starts to be a little bit more difficult, and this is where you really need connections, because yeah, the truth is that there's probably another 50 or 100 applicants for the same job. And if there is somebody who knows somebody, they might get a chance, and then you might not even get invited to an interview. So that's why I feel like it's very important to try to get into the company, not only through the main door, but also through the windows and back door and whatever, which in reality translates to adding people on LinkedIn, trying to apply for jobs with lower entry so that people see your CV twice and start thinking like, I just saw this girl applying for, let's say, management position. Why is she applying for, I don't know, a receptionist? And once they meet you, you can explain yourself and be like, listen, I just want an opportunity. And I believe that once I get into this company, whether it's as a receptionist, office manager, whatever, I will introduce myself, you will get to know me, and then whenever there's an opening for a more suitable job for me within the company, I'm already in. And then I think it will be easier for me to get it. So this is literally what I just did. I applied for an office manager job with an intention to work as a teacher. And that is how it worked for me. I went for an interview, I introduced myself, they got to know me. Obviously, they liked me because was there not to like? And then I was like, well, office management sounds like fun. I know I can do it. And I would love to do it for the time being. But actually, what I really want to do is to be an English teacher because that's what I studied for before. So yeah, I just met someone. I was lucky to finally, after weeks of hundreds of motivation letters, I was lucky enough to meet someone who was like, you know what? I like you and I'm going to give you a shot. I'm going to recommend you to other people and I'm going to try to help you to get a job. And then I had another interview at the same company. And another thing that I think is very important in seeking for a job, and I followed my own advice, is to feel the vibe in the company. Like, again, that applies only in the circumstances where you're fortunate to not having to have a job right here, right now, which I fortunately was privileged to have. So whenever I went for an interview, I tried to check with myself, how do I feel in that building? How do I feel with people who are interviewing me? And if my gut feeling was telling me, girl, you're going to hate it because those are not your type of people, or the energy in this environment is not it, I was like, okay, I'm not going to take this job, which also happened. I went to some different interviews and I got a job offer, but I was like, no, my stomach was not feeling well when I was talking to you guys, so I'm going to say no. I mean, obviously I didn't say it to them because, why would I? But I just politely declined. But with the job where I'm at now, whenever I went there for an interview, my first, second, and third, I just felt so good in this building. And I wrote even in my journal, I think after my second interview, that I think this is going to be it. I think I will be working at this building. And voila, here we are. So yes, I got hired partly as an office manager because their office manager went on a pregnancy leave for 6 months, and then they offered me also teaching position. So I also teach English there. And girl, I like it so much. Every day when I go there, especially at the beginning, I was really questioning it, like, girl, is this real? Like, is this really possible to feel so good at the company, like, at the job? And I remember a day before I was starting, I even posted a story. I was like, oh my God, what if they don't like me? What if they think that I'm too, I don't know, too much? Or, what if there's going to be plenty of Karens and, this type of specific people that I don't click with? And then I was like, oh my God, what if students don't like me or they try to bully me? So, the negative Nancy was very loud the day before. And it's just so funny to look back now and see how wrong I was, especially when it comes to people that I met at my job. Because obviously I don't get along with everyone. That's impossible. There are people that I'm like, your energy just drains me. But most people, especially that I'm surrounded with, are such a nice folks. So yeah, I have so many really cool colleagues that really level with me and that really have so much substance and are just cool people, they're not this like library type of teachers who think everything has to be according to the rules, and I don't know, we say it in Polish, who have like stick in their butthole, so that like, are like very stiff. But there's enough people who are just vibes on vibes, super funny, super cool, have some hobbies, have some life outside of work, and therefore are really nice to talk to. And they're not judgmental, which for me is very important, because obviously I'm not a typical teacher by far. So I feel very comfortable and happy with the fact that a lot of my colleagues know also what I'm doing outside of my job. Some of them follow me on Instagram. So yeah, that makes me very happy and makes me feel very safe in that environment, which is very, very important. And students are also vibes. I mean, obviously, they're teenagers, but I definitely am not being bullied or they're not really trying to push me. And I feel like I'm kind of starting to get over the trial period, and I'm finding myself as a teacher, and like as an English teacher, because obviously I've been teaching my almost entire life, but it's been a while since I stood in front of a classroom as an English teacher, right? And let me tell you, girl, first things first, at the beginning when I was teaching, I had such imposter syndrome, because obviously I'm not a native English speaker, and I know I speak English fluently. Obviously I make some mistakes, that's okay. But yeah, the truth is I did study English teaching. I did all my internships, and I am fluent in English. But when I was teaching my first weeks, I was doubting myself so much. At some point, I was like, bro, I don't even know how to write Caribbean anymore, which is quite a difficult word, to be fair. So every time they would ask me something like, how do we say this and this in English? My mind would just go blank, and I'd be like, Google it. And then, yeah, I was really like thinking to myself, like, oh my God, can I actually do this? Do I actually speak English? Like, am I a fraud? So that was really funny to experience it. I got over it. I feel like, okay, we good. We got this. And another thing that I think is super funny to experience is that, look, teaching dance class at 8 p.m. to 30 plus women who are grown up and who are trying to explore their sensuality is so different from teaching English to 16-year-old boys. Bro. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes I feel like I'm freaking bipolar. Like the switch that I have to make from, the day me as a teacher to evening the same day is sometimes, I kid you not, making me dizzy. Because I don't know if I mentioned it already, but most of my students are boys. And, they're 16 to like 18 or 20. It's MBO level, so it's like college level. And yeah, they're just being boys. So the hormones are all over the place. One day they're sweet, other day they just cannot shut up. All of them are addicted to their phones and TikToks and Snapchats. And some groups are quite big. Some groups are like 30 plus. So it takes a lot of classroom management. And I do admit it took me a moment to kind of, I think I'm still in the process of trying to like find the balance between being myself. So being like the sweet me with like jokes and just being relaxed, but also knowing when it's time to just be a grown up in the group and introduce some discipline. So yeah, that's the teacher me. Because like I really want to be myself. Like I don't want to put out this act, because I feel like it's not sustainable at some point. Yeah, I would not have energy to pretend that I'm this strict and proper teacher. But then obviously they're still kids, so I do have to be able to just keep them in line, and yeah, it's really funny process, I must tell you guys. And I have 3 different classes, 3 different groups. And it's also really funny to notice how with every single group, I have to be a little bit different, or I can be a little bit different because the dynamics in the group is different. So yeah, that's my experience as a teacher. When it comes to the office management, I feel like, yeah, it's all right. I think sometimes it's a very relaxed job, but sometimes it can be a little bit, I don't want to say annoying, but as an office manager, everybody wants something from you. And I feel like some people might also try to test you, to like give you things to do that are not actually your job to do, but they're just trying to see how far they can push. So it's kind of funny, but yeah, I'm old enough to say no when I think I should say no. So yeah, this is basically my job review to you guys. I think I already said that on my story, that I really like it, that the school is very multicultural and they do pay attention to inclusivity and they really try to allow students to represent their cultures and their heritage, and I'm here all for it. And yeah, next to this, like I said it many times, but I just can't say it enough, I really love the vibe at school. So I'm really hoping that after this 6 months, which my contract is expiring after, they're going to offer me extension, and then I can continue teaching English and yeah, maybe also teaching some events management, because the college specializes in events, hospitality, and business and entrepreneurship. So I think that's why I also feel like I really fit in there. Now, obviously it's a full-time job. So right now I work Monday to Friday, and next to this I teach classes in the evening. So sometimes I am dying. Yes. Sometimes it's really difficult, and that's why every now and then I ask my girls to sub the classes because I need some rest. But I'm hoping that after the lady who is the permanent office manager comes back, I'll be able to step down to 3 days. And so far, it seems like it won't be the problem. So then I'll get back some balance in my life. And speaking of balance, I just remembered that I wanted to tell you about this metaphor. I wonder if anybody made it so far listening. If you did, let me know, because that means there's some true love between you and I. If you listen to this rambling and enjoying it without falling asleep. But overall, what I wanted to say is that when I was recording last podcast, I felt like I am somewhere in the middle of the sea, lost a little bit, like the freelancing and dancing just wasn't doing it for me at that particular time. I was very discouraged and just tired and uninspired in a way. And I was like, I knew that I need some change in life, that I need some different challenge, but I wasn't sure what was it. So that's why I was like, okay, I think I need a job. And then I was applying for all kinds of stuff. Sometimes the jobs I was applying for were very questionable choice, but I feel like at some point when you so much on LinkedIn applying for jobs, you lose the filter. But then I kind of metaphorically felt like I'm in the middle of the sea and have no clue where I'm going to end up. But I was in peace knowing that I will land eventually on some land and everything will make sense and fall into place. And I'm so happy that I trusted this process, because right now, fast forward, 5 months later, I really do feel like I've reached that point when we made it. Like, I did make it to some peaceful land where I got what I was seeking for, which is stability, structure, inspiration, colleagues, input from outside, stable income. Let's not pretend that's also very convenient. So I just wanted to remind you, maybe you guys, that if you trust the process and of course help the universe, don't be like crying on your couch covered in blankets for days. You can allow yourself to do it one day. But if you take an action and try to solve your problems and just, use your resources to change things, I feel like universe will help you out and eventually things will fall into place, just don't panic and try to do your best to solve the problem, or like, change the circumstances that you're in if you don't like them. So yeah, I really right now feel at peace. I really feel like this is what I needed, and I would like to continue doing it for some time. And like I said at the beginning of this longest monologue, we'll see what happens next. I'm open to opportunities, but I really feel like I'm onto something, and yeah, I can't wait to see where I'm at in 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, who knows. So yeah, I think it's been long enough, this rumble bumble little podcast for you guys. I'm going to try next week to record a podcast about either way, Femme Confidence retreat and Femme Confidence event, tell you how it was and what are my feelings about it. Maybe I'm also going to ask you some questions. I remember one day I asked on my stories questions to you guys, like what advice would you give to 10 years younger yourself? And since it's my birthday soon, maybe we can reflect on that, and I can share with you some of my lessons that I wish I it's time to sleep. I wish I oh my god, I'm so sorry, knew when I was in my 20s. Maybe we can talk about Valentine's. I don't know. We'll see. Let me know if you didn't fall asleep. I think that's good for now. I will speak to you next time. Sending you lots of love. Have a wonderful day and keep on shining. Bye.